which I believe we talked about some. We have some there.
Show him the pointer. There's a pointer there.
Do we have any wine drinkers in here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you've probably heard a lot. It gets a lot of press. A lot of people say, you know, okay, just chug the red wine. And there's the goal of this presentation is going to be kind of to sort out the fact from the fiction, if you will. And so we have, one way to think about it is if you have polyphenol up here, one main kind of dichotomy for these would be you have flavonoids, and then you have non-flavonoids. And resveratrol is a type of non-flavonoid. Flavonoid, they're both very good for you, both types of rum. Flavonoids and non-flavonoids both can be very beneficial for elongating the lifespan. Some of the research has you know, definitely there's good evidence amounting that both types can elongate the lifespan, help prevent cancer, some of the best cancer prevention techniques that we know of actually at this point. Flavonoids are found in a lot of different foods, fruits, vegetables. Really one of the best reasons why we should include so many fruits and vegetables in our diets. Non-flavonoids, again, resveratrol would be an example. And again, now the difference is a lot of non-flavonoids are not found, they're a little bit harder to obtain. And so in resveratrol's case, I mean, it's available in trace amounts in a wide variety of foods, but really in insignificant amounts. Does it not get the benefit that you need? Really the two things actually that do have the highest levels of resveratrol are wine, particularly red wine, and peanuts. And so we're going to, kind of talk a little bit about resveratrol, why it works, potentially, maybe some scientific caveats on what to be aware of, and ways that you can find it. The other interesting thing that I found in a lot of my research is in certain grapes, depending on how familiar you are with red wine, certain grapes have more resveratrol than others, and the amount can be astounding, actually. One of the warnings here is going to be to not jump to conclusions too quickly, like our friend here. He obviously we're all scientists in here, and so, a lot of people, there's a tendency, you see one article, one journal article that says, oh, this is the conclusion from this article, and therefore, you must transform your lifestyles and apply the findings of this one article. And in reality, obviously, science is based on, the accumulation of many articles and the discovery and the conclusions of several studies. And so we'll try and sort a little bit of this out. The left-hand column is fact. That those are things that we know, or at least as close to fact as science can have at this point. The right-hand side would be fiction at this point. And so what we do know is resveratrol stimulates the activity of sirtuins across a variety of species. We're going to talk about sirtuins in a minute. They're really the main mechanism that drives the benefits here. And it's pretty much ironclad that resveratrol, it's a direct link, it does stimulate the activity, and that's important. These bottom two, a lot of the best studies up until this point are actually in animals, mice, things like that. A lot of times when you get animal studies with good results, you want to see the same results transfer over to humans. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So again, it increased lifespan in animals, and it improved health and survival in mice fed a high-calorie diet. This bottom point is interesting because a lot of times, one of the ways to elongate lifespan, one of the best ways we knew was to have a low-calorie diet, to reduce the calories, and that also has been shown to elongate the lifespan, and in this case, resveratrol might do it instead. So that's kind of interesting. On the right here, there are high amounts of resveratrol in red wine. For most wines, that is not the case, red or white. There are a lot of red grapes that it's minimal, it's low amounts. Some grapes wouldn't even have an effect. And we'll talk about a couple general conclusions on what you can, a take-home message for the wine drinkers in here. Now there's a new thing coming out, over-the-counter supplements, which is a much more concentrated form of resveratrol. And again, there's kind of, actually at this point, it's somewhat of mixed reactions. So there's been some good studies that say, oh, it works, and then I actually know people that rush out and they've already bought the supplements and they take them every day religiously. And then there have been some that actually, the counter argument is actually that in the encapsulation process, when you make it into a pill form and put it in a bottle, it actually destroys the resveratrol. So the science is trying to sort that out currently. And again, just a caveat here, it's a lot better documented in animals right now than in humans for the benefits. The key player is sirtuins. They're a family of enzymes. The main action here is a deacetylation. We're going to see the reaction in a minute. But these are the key players. They appear to reduce cell death against the reactive oxygen species DNA damage, so UV rays, stuff like that. We're going to talk about their role in more detail in a couple slides. This is an example of a deacetylation reaction. The main point is obviously there's your acetyl group. You lose that, and then it's another key to remember is most of this is NAD plus driven. You lose this nitrogen group, and the other key point here is notice a lot of the substrates that sirtuin uses in this type of sirtuin. That's really what makes it so useful. Is a lot of these substrates are involved in those type of cellular activities, and so that's why it is so beneficial, and it's able to do this reaction in a lot of different important settings of the cell. And this just describes it. It's NAD plus dependent, catalyzes a deacetylation reaction, and then it repeats the process many times, pretty much as needed. And really the main idea here is you could think of sirtuins as kind of like the guard, like a guard cell, security guard in the body. The idea that, you know, how some genes are turned on, some genes are turned off, and you kind of need it to stay that way. You don't want the wrong genes being turned on, the wrong genes being turned off. And so sirtuins help stabilize that. You know, for instance, if it finds that you have, you know, kidney cells or kidney genes that are turned on in the liver, that could be a problem. And so if they do get turned on, these are part of the solution to reset those off to how it should be. And in addition, also helping repair damaged DNA. This is a big one. I mean, this is how, you know, UV rays contribute to cancer. I mean, so it can help prevent that kind of a process, and it has. There's a lot of good studies where it has been linked to you know, cancer prevention. And so Brad here is illustrating the aging process, and a little bit of advice for the wine drinkers on how to help avoid this process using resveratrol. Red wine rather than white wine in general. It is true. A lot of the flavonoids, because there are flavonoids and resveratrol in wine grapes, and in particular they're in the skins of generally darker colored grapes, and so therefore the red wine, you know, as a generality tends to be more beneficial. Pinot Noir is a big grape for this, particularly grown in cooler climates. So unfortunately, not as much California, the warmer climates. The cooler climate tends to preserve the resveratrol better in the fermentation process. I listed a couple other grapes, and for those people that are also interested, there's actually a few lesser-known grapes that score even higher. There's a very obscure grape from Austria called Saint Laurent. Unfortunately, it is pretty difficult to find, but it's pretty much the MVP in addition to Pinot Noir. Other good ones include Petit Syrah, which you can find some places, and Malbec, which is originally from France, also now in Argentina. Makes a nice full body red. But two other points. Unfiltered is better than filtered. So in the winemaking process, it depends. Some people like to filter the wines, and you filter out a lot of the sediment sometimes, other byproducts in the winemaking process. However, oftentimes you also filter out the resveratrol. And so some of the bottles on the labels, they will say filtered versus unfiltered. Unfiltered is usually the way to go. And tannins, I don't know how, depending on your familiarity with wine, tannins are the kind of thick drying agent as a byproduct in wine that give you that kind of drying sensation when you're done with like a big full red wine. They don't always taste so good because they really, sometimes if they overpower the wine, they can really dry your mouth out. But they are good because the tannins are also found in the skins, and usually if the tannins are there, there's going to be at least some resveratrol there. So those are just some summarized points, and as a take-home message, I'm condoning more of this type of activity rather than this type of activity. So, and that's all I have.